In the top stories, Prime Minister Harris calls on everyone to help fight crime. Attorney General promises a dedicated land registry to go into operation this year. And several national matters discussed at Cabinet meeting this week. The details on these stories and more after the break. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Channel 5 newscast. I'm Carla Berridge. Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris has called on everyone to do everything they can to help in the fight against crime and violence. During the most recent Team Unity Town Hall meeting in Newtown, the Prime Minister said that while the security forces do their duty to protect the nation, it is up to the people to do their part.
And all of us have to better get serious, because there will be no prosperity if the country not at peace. And for too long, too many of us have turned a blind eye. Too many of us have not stood on the face of law and order, stood in support of it. We want to do half no half.
He said if every resident joins in the fight, they can reduce the incidence of crime and the fear of crime in the communities.
We can't play games with the security of the land. You, every citizen, must be able to walk your street any hour of the night. You must be able to go home without looking back and looking to your side and wondering if it's too late to go home. That is the country I want, a peaceful country, man.
As part of the national effort to reduce crime, the government invited stakeholders from various sectors to take part in a national crime reduction symposium on Thursday. The goal was to identify the root causes of crime and come up with strategies to tackle them. Attorney General Honorable Vincent Byron Jr. says the government remains committed to ensuring that a dedicated land registry becomes operational in St. Kitts and Nevis this year. He made the comments while speaking at the third in a series of town hall meetings dubbed Good Governance and Accountability for Prosperity on Thursday, February 7th at the Newtown Community Center. He said it is important to separate the land registry from the High Court registry for ease of access.
In our court system, we have found over time that as the litigation, the cases have expanded and grown and expanded, that we have had a backlog. The whole process has slowed down. This Team Unity government will be going to Parliament soon in this year to initiate the process to start to do an enumeration. We will go from house to house, door to door, and we will register, verify the registration of our voters where they live.
The land registry will be placed in the Georgian House, formerly known as the Clico Building. The Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, DPP, is also located in the same building. Minister Byron said that the establishment of the land registry falls within the scope of the government's good governance agenda. He said that over the next few weeks, a new High Court chamber will be opened at the Sir Lee Elmore Judicial Complex in Bastille, and plans are also on the way to introduce a third magistrate court in Bastille that will also help to reduce the current backlog of cases. Matters of international trade and related matters of public health were the topic of discussion at a cabinet meeting held earlier this week. The meeting was chaired by Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris and was attended by representatives from the Ministry of International Trade, Department of Customs and Excise, Ministry of Legal Affairs, and the Ministry of Health. In a post-cabinet briefing, Director General of the St. Kitts Nevis Information Service, Lesroy Williams, outlined what was discussed. He said Cabinet agreed to lend further financial support to the HELP program.
Cabinet was provided with an overview of the HELP program, under which to date over 150 plus persons have benefited with housing repairs. Cabinet noted that this will add quality and value of the housing stock in St. Kitts and Nevis. In that regard, Cabinet committed in principle to give support to making available of additional funds under a HELP program. Cabinet addressed issues of modification of the HELP program to ensure that priority is given to those persons who had the greatest need, in particular the indigent.
There was also a discussion about a new public market in Bastille.
Cabinet considered a proposal from the Ministry of Agriculture for the development of a new Bastille public market. Cabinet approved the proposal in principle and established a broad-based committee that will address all issues relevant to the construction of the new Bastille public market, including how such a facility will fit into its program for the rejuvenation of the capital.
According to Williams, there were several approvals made, including applications for new projects under the Citizenship by Investment Program, requests for duty-free concessions by a number of enterprises, and in particular granted concessions to a number of small and medium-sized enterprises. Cabinet also examined the program for the week of activities to mark the second anniversary of the Government of National Unity and made certain refinements. Plans to transform the People's Employment Program PEP into the Skills Training Empowerment Program STEP are in the final stages. According to information out of government headquarters on Friday, Permanent Secretary in the Office of the Prime Minister with responsibility for PEP, Osbert D'Souza, met with PEP officials and representatives from the National Skills Training Program and the Technical Vocational Education and Training Secretariat to discuss the planning process for the inauguration of STEP. Mr. D'Souza and his team have also been involved in a sensitization campaign in several communities around the island to speak with PEP workers about the shift in attitude and work ethics that is needed to fully embrace the philosophy of STEP. According to Prime Minister Harris, STEP will be a major advancement on PEP in terms of its philosophical underpinnings, objectives, deliverables, and cost to the country. It will be rooted in a people-centered governance framework. The Prime Minister said that the STEP will offer short-term job attachment or apprenticeship where persons will be given a period to learn through the hands-on approach, while stressing that soft skills behavior, conduct and values for sustainable living will be emphasized. STEP will be officially launched on February 16th at the Circus Bastille at 4:30 p.m. After the break, Sandy Point man convicted for gun and drug charges, and OClock Primary wraps up its Literacy Week of activities. We'll tell you more when we come back. Akeel Glasgow of Sandy Point has been found guilty of all charges against him in court on Tuesday, February 6th. Glasgow faced the charges of illegal importation, possession of controlled drugs, and possession with intent to supply. He was also charged with possession of a firearm and ammunition and importation of a firearm and ammunition. Glasgow was fined EC $200,000 to be paid in 4 months or serve 2 years in prison. The charges stemmed from an intelligence-led operation in August of 2015. According to reports, on August 26, Glasgow picked up a package from KDP Enterprises and was later arrested on New Street. In the package, the police found about 6 pounds of compressed marijuana and an illegal gun with 19 rounds of matching ammunition. Commissioner of Police Ian Creeley said this conviction is a testament to the results of good work done by the police and other law enforcement partners. I want to also commend the prosecutors for staying the course in a difficult trial. It sends a clear message that when caught, you will be held accountable and the laws of the Federation will be upheld. Students of the OClock Primary School marched to the streets of Bastille on Friday, signaling the end of activities for the school's Literacy Week 2017. Shira Flanders tells us more.
Students and teachers of the OClock Primary School were seen bouncing through the streets on Friday afternoon in their purple t-shirts as they marched at the Grand Literacy Parade that wrapped up the week of activities. Both parents and students were heard chanting the school's literacy theme, nursery rhymes such as Humpty Dumpty and Jack and Jill, to the beat of the music. The march began at the school's ground and continued onto Pond Road. The students then marched onto Keon Street, headed down Church Street and onto the Bay Road before returning to the school grounds. The school celebrated its Literacy Week of activities with a number of events, including an elocution contest, a t-shirt day, tag day, and a literacy exhibition earlier this week. The OClock Primary School's Literacy Week of activities was held under the theme Promoting Literacy, Stimulating Creative Minds. Reporting for ZIZ News, I am Shaira Flanders.
As Black History Month activities continue, students of the Seventh-day Adventist Primary School marched through the streets of Bastille depicting various figures in Black history. In an interview with ZIZ, Deputy Principal Samuel Bedford explained the reason for hosting this type of activity.
What we want to do today, we want to focus on some of the great achievements of Black people of the past. Many of them may not have been able to attain the highest level of education, but they had a passion to do something and they were able to innovate, they were able to create things. And so we want to challenge our young people to understand that God has given them the gift to accomplish great things, and we want them to understand that they can also create things.
Deputy Principal Bedford said that even though there are a number of Black heroes throughout time, the focus was on inventors.
Each class would have had at least one Black person that they would have been focusing on. Some classes may have had up to 4, sorry, but the whole idea is that we want to focus on Black persons who would have developed something, created something, or made it better than it was before.
ZIZ spoke with a number of students who briefly stated something about their favorite inventor.
Our character is Gareth Morgan, and he invented the gas mask and the stoplight and for everybody to use.
As you can see, they have 3 types of gas masks and 3 types of stoplight. That was the last one before he died, and this was the last gas mask before he died.
My name is Cara Brown. I'm in grade 6 and I'm doing Mary Van Britton Brown. Mary Van Britton Brown invented the home security system.
According to Deputy Principal Bedford, the SDA Primary School is considering hosting the Black History March every year. Born February 10, 1922, Docena Utterson of Newtown celebrated her 95th birthday on Friday. Members of her immediate family and persons from the Ministry of Social Services gathered at her house to present her with a token of love to celebrate the event. Deputy Director of Social Services Anne Wigley congratulated Ms. Utterson on the milestone.
We are hoping that we will be able to come back a few more years, because right now we have so many of our centenarians and you are looking like you're just 70. So the 20 and 95 will bring you over that. Okay. So from the Ministry of Social Development, Community and Gender, and also the government and the entire Federation, we wish you a happy birthday, blessed one, and we do hope that you will live to see many, many more.
Ms. Utterson thanked those who came to celebrate with her.
Thank God for my family, my friends, my good friend, and God bless you all, whatever you all has done for me.
When asked what has contributed to her long life, she spoke of some of the activities she engages in.
I weed my garden. I exercise.
Wow.
Every morning, every night. Exercise. And go walking.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
What about the water?
Oh, yes.
Drink water a lot?
Sometime. When you don't walk, you feel sick.
Right.
That happened to my father.
Okay.
Docena Utterson of Newtown is fondly known as the Mobby Lady. Coming up, Brazil police walk off the job, leading to a spike in murders. The details when we come back.
Love is in the air at Courts. Make your credit purchase of $499 and over for your big chance at winning an all-inclusive weekend getaway for two to the lovely island of St. Lucia. Plus, when you shop, you pay nothing for 30 days. This offer valid from February 6 to 18. Love is in the air, so celebrate with a romantic weekend getaway. Don't wait. Shop at Courts today. Courts, bringing value home.
Military patrolled the streets of Brazil's beach city of Espírito Santo amidst a spike in murders after police walked off the job in protest for better pay. Here's more.
A spike in murders in Brazil as soldiers patrol the streets in Espírito Santo state. More than 100 homicides reported in just 6 days after police walked off the job, demanding better pay. Schools and shops are now closed. Public transportation ground to a halt as the military tries to contain chaos. Some citizens are running scared.
Father is coming to pick me up. I'm leaving. I won't stay here.
Most of the violence is happening here in the state capital, Vitória, a wealthy port city ringed with golden beaches. But normally crowded cafes are now empty, with visitors staying away amid security fears.
There's been a drop in customers, and we've also seen problems with trying to leave certain areas. There are no buses, there's no security for getting home safely. Business is complicated.
Brazil is in the midst of an economic crunch, making it tough to keep even basic public services going. There are now fears the strikes could spread to other states struggling to pay their police.
The Guyana Revenue Authority has granted a reprieve to residents of 60 hinterland communities by exempting them from paying VAT on air travel. Royden James reports.
Local air carriers had raised concerns about accurately identifying who are residents of the interior and who will be going there to work in light of legislative changes that required the payment of value-added tax, VAT, on tickets for hinterland travel. Commissioner of the Guyana Revenue Authority, Mr. Godfrey Stacia, clarified the move.
Particular airports, I think I've exempted about 60, and airstrips or something like that, after discussion with the Aircraft Association. And the rest, once you do not show that you live there, you will have to pay the tax. So I do not know that Americans are exempt, except for the VAT for aircraft.
As it relates to identifying hinterland residents who are exempt from paying VAT on hinterland air travel, the National Air Transport Association had requested an engagement with the GRA and intends to write the agency about resident cards or documentation to positively identify bona fide hinterland residents.
It is too hard to administer. Right, and I would not be going to the Ministry of Indigenous Affairs and to find out who lives in certain areas and to give them some specific cards and go to the what, the Taushi or whatever, the show, and ask them, because if you start to do that, you would start to remove bribery from one spot and take to somewhere else. So it's better you exempt particular airports.
Persons had also raised concerns about the exemption of indigenous peoples from paying VAT on a number of other items, but the GRA boss said that everyone would be treated similarly with regard to the tax measures, except for the air transportation. Separately, miners, shop owners, and tour operators have already expressed concerns over having to increase their service costs in the interior because of the widened VAT base. Royden James, HGP Nightly News.
Coming up, unemployment is a top concern as France heads into its presidential elections. The details when we come back. A recent Reuters poll shows that unemployment and political integrity are French voters' top concerns ahead of the country's presidential elections this year. Mary-Louise Gauthier reports.
création d'emplois, surtout pour les jeunes, parce que là, c'est pas possible de continuer comme ça. Il y a trop de pauvreté parmi les jeunes. Donc, moi, c'est ma priorité. Je sais que pour beaucoup, c'est la sécurité.
On vit une période dans laquelle c'est un mot qui commence à être vide de sens pour nos hommes politiques. On a les exemples flagrants depuis une semaine.
Malheureusement, on ne peut pas tout refaire. Donc,
de l'inviter, bien qu'elle n'appelle plus tard chez soi-même.
Il nous faut un mot pour résumer votre...
Et votre profession?
Écoutez, c'est l'année où tout le monde est devenu fou, donc d'accord.
Families of missing people in Sri Lanka say they will go back on hunger strike if the government does not give them answers. Many say they have little faith in promises made by the new administration. Al Jazeera's Minil Fernandez reports from Colombo.
Desperate for news, Javanitha has spent the last 8 years searching for her eldest daughter. The 17-year-old was trying to escape the violence between government troops and Tamil Tiger fighters with her family in March 2009.
Men dressed in military-style clothes snatched her. Shells were falling and aircraft were circling above. It wasn't only my child, but 300 or 400 who were taken away.
6 years later, she saw her daughter in this photograph with then presidential candidate Maithripala Sirisena, published in a campaign poster. But no one can still tell her where her daughter is.
My child is alive. I now have proof because she has been photographed with the president. They can't deny it.
Desperate, she and 15 others launched a hunger strike, which was called off after their actions forced the state defense minister to come see them.
It's not easy to try and locate these persons or to find what happened to them. So it takes a bit of time, but I understand their frustration.
On Thursday, Vijayawardena arranged for the group to meet senior ministers in Colombo. They have directed the police to investigate these cases, but the families and activists say the government needs to do more.
We are not putting these 16 families forward and saying only they must get justice. It is for the thousands of missing that we are taking a stand.
Ministers say the newly established Office of Missing Persons will deal with such cases. But the families have told Al Jazeera they have no faith in such mechanisms.
These families meeting ministers in Colombo say they can't give up, despite spending years trying to find out the truth. They'd hoped the new government would bring change, but that hope is fast fading.
Observers say the government must show its commitment to addressing the issue of missing people in decisive action, not words. Javanitha and other families say they will give the government until the 20th of this month to come up with acceptable answers. If not, they will resume their hunger strike. Having lost their children, they warn they have nothing else to lose. Vinay Fernandez, Al Jazeera, Colombo.
Up next in sports, BHS Sportsmaster ready for annual sports day next weekend, and the site of Rio's Olympic Games have fallen into disrepair. Stay tuned.
Love is in the air at Courts. Make your credit purchase of $499 and over for your big chance at winning an all-inclusive weekend getaway for two to the lovely island of St. Lucia. Plus, when you shop, you pay nothing for 30 days. This offer valid from February 6 to 18. Love is in the air, so celebrate with a romantic weekend getaway. Don't wait. Shop at Courts today. Courts, bringing value home.
First up in sports, we wrap up our series of interviews with Bastia High School sports officials as Theo Clark speaks with the sports master ahead of the school sports day.
The sports master of the Bastia High School is Mr. Alexis Isaiah Morris, and he's here with us today. Morris, you heard all what your sports, the greenhouse representative, the red and the blue and the orange, the champion, you heard what they had to say. What do you have to say?
Oh, well, Theo, first of all, let me say good day to the listening and viewing audience of this program. And of course, it is great to really listen to my colleagues from each of the houses. And I think they would have summed it up very nicely. I don't think there is much more that I can say, because the hype that has been coming from them, the energy that has been flowing, I'm really hoping that it would spill onto the children, because that is the most important product, because without the children there would be no event. And so therefore we are just hoping that what has transpired here at this point, that we could take it back and really get the students to come out and participate in the 49th annual athletics meet of the Bastia High School sports.
What is so special about the Bastia High School sports meet? Because every time it comes around, there's always this hype, it's like, Bastia High School sports taking over the whole country.
Well, that is why we're the trendsetters. We always set the trend, and we try as much as possible to be the first out there. And so therefore we're the first high school, I believe, that would also start the sports season. And so everybody would be, the general public would be geared and ready and looking for a good product. Because we know over the years, if we go back to our history, Bastia High, the birthplace of champions, that is where it all began. And so persons really gravitate towards the product, and we're hoping that it would not change. No matter what happens at the Bastia High School, we have our challenges yet, yes, but we are hoping that the audience, the general public, the alma maters, the alumni, everybody would come out on February 19th and support the product. We know it's a good product, and we're hoping that, like I say, we have a bumper crowd on that day.
Rio de Janeiro pulled off last year's Olympics, keeping crime at bay and fending off dire forecasts of corruption, environmental degradation, and cost overruns. 6 months after South America's first games, the floodgates have burst open.
The billions of dollars spent building up Rio de Janeiro to host last year's Olympic Games was supposed to benefit the city and its residents. But 6 months later, little has changed for the better.
Well, I think the short-term impact for 2 weeks was very positive. The city got a lot of publicity. But if you look at the medium and long-term impact, I think it was very limited.
Historic Maracana Stadium, the site of the opening and closing ceremonies, is now largely abandoned and heavily vandalized. Power was cut off after a feud over unpaid electrical bills. Olympic Park is home to sleek sports arenas without events, deserted before they were even broken in.
There's a lot to do. The space is very big. There are not enough public bathrooms, no place to drink or eat in the area. It gets complicated. People that come here to spend some time bring backpacks with food and beverages to stay here. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
Just up the road, the village constructed for athletes is fenced off and mostly empty. The developer says only 260 of the 3,600 apartments have sold. With Brazil stuck in its deepest recession in decades, many of these venues may be abandoned. Rio organizers still owe creditors about $40 million. Luke Sheridan, The Associated Press.
Former New York Knicks forward Charles Oakley was removed from Madison Square Garden and arrested after he became completely abusive to arena staff, according to Knicks officials. Here's more.
He was one of the most physical players in NBA history.
Oakley in his face.
And this morning, former New York Knicks Charles Oakley is making headlines again at Madison Square Garden.
Everybody looking over there. Apparently there's a Charles Oakley over there, Mike.
But this time, it's for causing a melee off the court.
Charles Oakley is involved in something. They need security in a big way.
The 53-year-old suddenly ejected from his seat while watching the Knicks-Clippers game by a swarm of security. The Knicks claim Oakley was ejected after making negative comments to Knicks owner James Dolan.
Oakley and the Knicks organization have not seen eye to eye recently.
But Oakley, who has been charged with 3 counts of assault, adamantly denies the Knicks allegations, saying he was simply there to support the team.
I'm like, I've been here 4.5 minutes. I'm a Knicks fan. Played here for 10 years. I love the Knicks. I love New York. This is my heart.
Fans showing their support to the man who helped lead the Knicks to the 1994 finals, chanting Oakley, Oakley.
When we come back, we'll have another look at the stories that made the headlines. Recapping the top stories, Prime Minister Harris calls on everyone to help fight crime. Attorney General promises a dedicated land registry to go into operation this year. And several national matters discussed at cabinet meeting this week. And that's the end of the ZIZ Channel 5 newscast. Thank you for joining us. I'm Gala Verage. Goodbye.